Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, January the 6th, the year of our Lord 2021. And this isn't a day that anybody is going to forget in a hurry. The US Capitol building is currently partly being occupied by pro-Trump protesters, frustrated at the lack of action by their congressmen, their senators, and the fraud that we've seen up and down the country. Yes, indeed, this has now reached boiling point. And the footage you're seeing on your screens right now, we are bringing you almost live from within the nation's capital. That is protesters fighting with Capitol Police. Those are protesters smashing open the doors to the Capitol building, and it reminds me of one summer in 1789 when protesters stormed the places that they believed were the swamp of their times, the Bastille. I'm not going to sit here and take any position on whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. This is the news that we're going to do here live on the show, and we're also going to do the analysis of this. Because guess what? I have just walked from Capitol Hill to this studio downtown in Washington, D.C. through crowds of hundreds of thousands of happy warriors. People who are excited to be in town, people who are excited to be supporting President Trump, people who are excited and happy to fight for their country over and over again. But there are people out there also who are angry and who are frustrated, who are peeved that for 2020, the government shut the country down. Their government couldn't even write them a check, couldn't even cut them a $2,000 check, Mitch McConnell. And there are people who are peeved that during that 2020, the same time they were told, stay at home, wear your mask, shut the heck up, the Marxist protesters were out on the streets every day, that Marxist protesters were burning down businesses, that Marxist protesters were vandalizing public property, that Marxist protesters were afforded the protection of government, of the state. And I saw it firsthand today. As I walked down 16th Street, here in your nation's capital, Black Lives Matter Plaza. You know what we saw this afternoon on Black Lives Matter Plaza? Was the apparatus of the state, police officers, guarding the graffitied streets that say, Black Lives Matter. Let me just be very clear about something here. The apparatus of the state, which is paid for by you, is protecting Marxist propaganda in the nation's capital. That is what your taxpayer money is being spent on. And here are the police on your screen right now. Here are the Capitol Police drawing their guns live. This is happening now in the nation's capital, in the chamber, to keep protesters out. Well, the Capitol has been breached, and the chamber has been breached. And I'm not going to sit here on this show today and tell you, we should just keep quiet, go home, sit down, kumbaya. Did the left kumbaya in 2020? And if not, they didn't. Then how is there a different standard when right-wingers are pissed off? That's all I'm saying. I'm saying, how is there a different standard? Jake Tapper on CNN right now is calling this sedition. He's calling it a coup. Yeah, they've had to pause the certification of the Electoral College votes, the members, the brave members of Congress, have been evacuated from the chamber. That feckless coward Mike Pence, who I told you, I said it yesterday, I said it the day before yesterday, I've said it on the morning shows, I've said it on Twitter, we've said it on the website. I told you he would do nothing. And everybody out there who wants to go, trust the plan, there's a plan. The only plan there has ever been is to screw you over. That's the only plan there has ever been. Do not bring me QAnon. Do not bring me 4, 5, 6-dimensional chess, because that was a distraction to screw you over. That was a psyop aimed at you, to distract you from what was going on, while the Republican National Committee, the GOP writ large, and specifically Mitch McConnell whittled away at the President of the United States and his team. Whoever they didn't like around him, gone. Gorka, gone. Bannon, gone. People who are willing to fight, get rid of them. Knife them in the back, so that Mitch McConnell and Josh Holmes and the Republican Party, as it was before President Trump, could come back and take back the reins of power. How did it work, Minority Mitch? How did it work out for you? Oh, Mike Pence is going to retire for sure. He ain't coming back. No way. Not after this. He ain't got no base anymore. And he's been going around town telling people, oh, I've got too much baggage now after all this. Yeah, you got some baggage, all right. I want to just we are doing this live, by the way. I want to go back to some of the scenes. Can we go back to some of the scenes live from the Capitol building right now? I know we've also got Dr. Gina Loudon. We've got Ben Bergquam, both live at the Capitol right now. And if my production team, whenever we get Ben, Gina, I want to go straight to them. Now, here's the thing. There's a handful of people who have broken into the Capitol building. And everybody's saying, storm, they stormed the Capitol building. They've stormed. It's a coup, it's a coup. It's a couple of people who've gone in there to protest, all right? If this was a Marxist, they'd be occupying it for about 6 months. You wouldn't say a damn thing, like they did in Zuccotti Park. You remember Occupy? And the authorities didn't do a damn thing. These guys will be gone by the end of the night. There's a curfew, by the way. Mayor Bowser, Chinese Communist Party associate Mayor Muriel Bowser, has issued a curfew. 6 p.m. Everybody has to be home. Here's the thing. There are patriots out there right now, fine people, you might say. And they're not storming nothing. There's a few scuffles in the Capitol, a handful. You can see, was it 5, 6, 7 people there? But the majority of the people want their voices to be heard, and they stormed. They stormed. They walked slowly up the steps of the Capitol, like our production staff, like our team here at Real America's Voice, walked slowly past me here on the live shot. That's the extent to which it was going on. Walked calmly up the Capitol steps and put a flag up there. That's all that happened. But they're storming, and there's a curfew, and shut it down, and draw your guns on the chamber, DC Capitol Police. The force with which they approach the political right is nothing short of disgusting and tyrannical. The behavior with which the politicians approach the political right is nothing short of tyrannical. And I used to laugh, I used to chuckle back in England watching Alex Jones from London when he used to go, 1776 is coming again. Turns out he was right. But he wasn't talking about the revolution coming, he was talking about the tyranny coming. And the tyranny is here already. Yeah. It's bad. And this is live outside the Capitol building right now, where spirits are high and patriots who care about their country and do not want to hand over the keys of government to a Chinese Communist Party Manchurian candidate in the shape of Joe Biden, controlled by his son Hunter Biden, who, remember, is friends, in his words, with the effing spy chief of China. National Pulse exclusive that we took from the hard drive from hell. Those patriots out on the Capitol steps right now, peacefully, jovially, happy warriors protesting. Those are the people who have the nation and its future in their hearts. Those are the people with the children. Those are the people who care what's being taught in their schools and who is governing them, and whether or not they are corrupted by a foreign power, and whether or not their votes count, and whether or not these machines are being used to flip their votes, or mail-in ballots are being used and votes are being harvested. They care. You say what you want. You are all grown-ups. Even Jake Tapper supposedly is a grown-up, and Madeleine Peltz at Media Matters is supposedly a grown-up. Doesn't behave like one. But you are grown humans. You can make up your own minds about whether or not you think it was the right thing to do for protesters to storm inside the Capitol and go inside the chamber. That's your call. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to think about that. But the people protesting outside and using their First Amendment rights and the rights to peaceably assemble and redress the grievances that your government has foisted upon you and continues to. Well, those are very, very fine people. And they're not violent. And they're not extremists. And how dare Jake Tapper and CNN refer to them as seditionists? You know who the seditionists are? CNN literally runs a Marxism school with the Chinese Communist Party. It literally does. Other news outlets are part of that too. It's literally the case. I don't even hear about that on Fox News, let alone anywhere else. Certainly never in any of the newspapers. We've got to rely on Natalie Winters to bring us exclusives like that, because she bothers to actually do reporting and go through, hey, maybe Xi Jinping's alma mater isn't the best place for CNN to set up a Marxist journalism school. Maybe CNN, which calls itself a neutral or fair-minded, fact-first network, maybe they shouldn't be setting up a Marxism school at all. You see all the different shots there on your screen right now. We're pulling in as much footage as possible from outside the Capitol. But if you wanted to avoid this, and I want to speak directly to the political establishment in this city, the political establishment that wants us all in our houses by 6 p.m., by the way, full curfew in Washington, D.C., the American capital. I never thought I'd see the day. Full curfew, 6 p.m. Oh, except essential workers. The media is an essential workers. I guess that means I can be out beyond 6 p.m. But you deplorables, you schmendricks, you grundoons, you nobodies, go home, shut up. That's what Mayor Muriel Bowser is telling you. How dare you protest? How dare you come together? How dare you peaceably assemble? How dare you stand on the steps of the US Capitol and demand transparency? Steve Cortez said it. He wrote it. He said, if Biden was so interested in being a legitimate president, then he would support the cause for full, across-the-board, blanket transparency of the election in this country. Stop destroying the ballots. Stop throwing out the court challenges. Stop dismissing people. Stop belittling them. Let them have their day in court. Let them have their day in the chamber. No. shut it all down, shut them all up. Who does that if they're not guilty? Who behaves like that if they're not guilty? I know we've got Ben Bergquam live at the Capitol. I want to bring him into the conversation here. Ben, just absolutely extraordinary scenes coming out of the U.S. Capitol right now. It's really got me wound up hearing what people like Jake Tapper have to say about the thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of peaceful people out there. But no, they want to go, oh, a window was smashed and somebody got in a scuffle with a police officer. This is a coup, it's a coup. Ben, what's going on out there?
Well, like you said, Raheem, the 99.999% of the people out here are peacefully assembling. They're marching around. Now, there are some very upset people with what's happened, what they believe is against our president. 4 years from Russia collusion hoax. We're pushing that, lying to the American people, to the quid pro quo and all of that. And now we see the election fraud, massive election fraud, and everyone that I've talked to out here rightfully angry. But like you said, they're peaceful. There is no rioting out here. There's no looting going on. In fact, I met this gal right here, Holly, who said she wanted to meet you. She said, what did you want to say to Steve?
I wanted to ask Steve if he'd marry.
So in the middle of all this carnage that the Jake Tapper is saying out here, but she says she loves you too, Raheem. She loves you as well.
I'll be if Steve says no, then I'll accept. Okay.
Raheem says if Steve says no, he'll accept. You were her first choice, Raheem. You were actually her first choice. She was trying to track you down. But this is, I got to say, I go to all of these events all over the country, and patriots are the best of what America have to offer. I mean, just amazing people, love this country, love God, love their family, love this president, but they're just sick of what they've been seeing happen by the fake news media, by the Jake Tappers of the world, by CNN, MSNBC, by the Democrats who have sold out this country to China. They are sick of it, and they're not going to take it anymore. That is the message. That's the message, Raheem.
Some extraordinary scenes that we're seeing from inside the chamber, guns drawn. I've seen people climbing on the balconies. I've seen people taking the vice president's position, at the front of the chamber there. I mean, this is absolutely wild what we're seeing here now. But Ben, I mean, you mentioned it. You talked about the gaslighting that's been going on in this country for the last 4 years. People have been sold the Charlottesville hoax, sold the Russia hoax. I don't make excuses for any kind of criminality, but I also don't just dismiss outright people's frustrations. And I can totally understand how some people have just been pushed beyond breaking point. They don't see government representing them anymore. In fact, all they see is people spitting in their faces, Mitch McConnell even spitting in their faces. You can't have $2,000. By the way, please vote for us in Georgia. No. And people are done with it. People are absolutely done with it. So let me ask you this question. You've been out there all day. Let me ask you, what are you hearing from people about their feelings towards the Republican Party and the higher-ups in the Republican Party? Mitch McConnell, Mike Pence, Lindsey Graham, all people who have kind of turned around today and stabbed the America First crowd right in the front.
Disgust is the word that I hear most often when you talk about the establishment. Absolute disgust. That's why they love President Trump so much. That's why you have hundreds of thousands of people in the streets of D.C. right now for President Trump, because President Trump was the first politician that came along who wasn't a politician, who did what he said he was going to do and more. And they believe that as much as President Trump is being stabbed in the back, the American people are being stabbed in the back by the same weak Republicans that we've had for decades. The same ones that sold America out for years are the ones that are throwing President Trump. This is the fight that we're seeing here is not just for President Trump. It is against the establishment that you were talking about, Raheem.
Ben, it seems far more peaceful and chill out there where you are than the media, the establishment media would have us believe right now. CNN, all these guys going wall-to-wall coverage of windows being smashed and calling it sedition and calling it a coup. What are people doing right now? Just ask me, what are people doing? Tell me, what are people doing right now out there?
Most people are wandering around. Most people are carrying flags. They have their families out here. We just talked to a group from Long Island that brought 200 people in a bus. But there is more action going on as you get closer to the building. There are people that are really upset. In fact, they've climbed up onto the scaffolding that they have for the inauguration. We have hundreds of people actually up on that scaffolding now. And now we have the police, the Capitol Police, that have come out onto the steps to push people back. It is a wild scene up towards the Capitol. And there are, like you said, there are people that have stormed the building. They are upset. There are a lot of people who are upset. But by the vast majority, what is happening out here is peaceful, is beautiful, is what America's about. But even the people that are out here that aren't at the building, trying to get into the building, the sentiment is the same, that this is our house, this is the people's house, and it's been taken over by people that are undermining this country. They're just as sick of it down here. There's just a different level of frustration and little different level of action that are taking place. But most of what's happening out here, pro-God, pro-country, pro-family.
Ben, I want to put this tweet on the screen with both of us as well, just real quick. Also, this is from the president, still the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. He says, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. USA demands the truth. You know, President Trump said he was not going anywhere. He certainly wasn't going to be going quietly. Today's events have shown us that is absolutely the case, and that if the vice president doesn't want to keep fighting, that Donald Trump will keep fighting. What are people's impressions of how President Trump has approached today?
100% in favor of it. They want President Trump to go farther. They believe he should declare martial law, that he should declare the Insurrection Act, and use every power at his disposal as the commander-in-chief of this country to prevent the takeover by, the anti-American left that we've seen. And I just came out from the crowd, the Chinese, the globalists of this country, or of the world, that are trying to destroy this country. That is the sentiment, is to President Trump to keep fighting. Do not give up, because these people are not going to give up. The American people are not going to give up.
Ben, we've had the order from CCP Mayor Muriel Bowser saying everybody needs to be off the streets by 6 p.m. Do you think we've got, 2.5 hours now until that curfew comes into effect? Do you see people just voluntarily dispersing at 6 p.m.?
I'll answer that question for you real quick. All right, guys, Mayor Bowser has said you all have to go home at 6 p.m. Are you going to go home at 6 p.m.?
No!
They didn't make Antifa go home. They didn't make BLM go home.
We're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere.
We're American citizens. We ain't got to go anywhere.
There you have it, Raheem. They're not going anywhere. This battle is just starting here in the Capitol. They're not heading home anytime soon.
Ben, thank you so much for bringing us the report from on the ground. We may come back to you in this hour as well. Ben Bergquam, Real America's Voice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, is not scripted. That's not planned. Ben asked the question to the crowd out there, you going home at 6 p.m.? And they say, we're American citizens. We're not going anywhere. And did you hear the other one? They didn't make Antifa go home. Actually, that's correct. They did not. Remember all those scenes from over Kenosha and Portland and everywhere? This has been declared a riot. Go home. No. Okay. They didn't make Antifa go home. They didn't make Black Lives Matter go home. I know we've got the announcement of the curfew there on the screen. It's a little bit small for me to read from here, but I hope you can read that at home. I also want to try and get I got the producers. I sent the producers an image from social media of the guns raised inside the Capitol building. I'd like to tee that up next as well. There's Mayor Muriel Bowser's statement. Today I'm ordering a citywide curfew for the District of Columbia from 6 p.m. on Wednesday, January the 6th until 6 a.m. on Thursday, Tuesday, January the 7th. Again, the smaller font is a little too small for my eyes, but there, you can see at the bottom there, working media are essential workers, credentialed, etc., etc. You know, one rule for them, one rule for my media buddies, another rule for other people. Now this is an incredible image, and I want to just leave that on your screens there for a second. Just take in what's happening here. Just internalize that for a second. Let's get that back up if we can. Let's internalize that. These are protesters at the US Capitol building. And by the way, you might have noticed, we're not taking any breaks during this show today. Guns up against American citizens in their Capitol building, in the place that is supposed to represent them. A gun pointed in their faces. That's a gun pointed in your face. That's a gun pointed in democracy's face. That's a gun pointed in the First Amendment's face. Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, no, they shouldn't be storming federal buildings. Yeah, okay, they probably shouldn't. We probably also shouldn't have had a fraudulent election. How about that? What about that one? Earth to Alyssa Farah, former press secretary, deputy for the President of the United States, lauding Mike Pence for his cowardice today. She tweeted, "We're a nation of laws, not of men." Where were those laws on November the 3rd? And why do we have all these Republicans suddenly just falling to their knees, prostrating before the Democratic Party of America, prostrating before what it stands for, prostrating before the Chinese Communist Party, prostrating before radical Marxist communism? I don't use that phrase lightly. Anybody who knows me, let's roll as much footage as we can through this, by the way, because I'm going to just keep talking. And you can see the protesters in the chamber. In the chamber. Extraordinary scenes. And again, you're big enough, you're ugly enough to decide your own view on that. I have mine. It's called a protest. And when the left does it, it's fine. Now, the left may have not breached the chamber. Certainly done it with other things, other federal government buildings, other places, burned things down. They wanted to occupy the White House. They tried to get into the White House last year. That happens. Frustrations boil over on both sides. That happens. But the gun? A gun? In the face? What are you going to do? Shoot a man in the face? In the US Capitol building? That's what you're going to do? That's the threat? It's stunning. This is an image that should haunt us for the rest of our lives. This is as emblematic, as important, as graphic as that scene that I have hanging in my dining room of the British soldiers aiming their long weapons at protesters in Boston. And the first protester to get run through was Crispus Attucks. This is what these images, guns being drawn on American citizens inside the chamber. Why? Why? Because we don't like it when protesters breach the chamber? Fine. Agreed. You know, you think we wanted to be in that position? You think any of those people wanted to be in that position? You conducted the fraud. I'm talking to the establishment, I'm talking to the people, the Jake Tappers whining, "Sedition, it's sedition, sedition on the House floor." Make a song out of it. You did that. You made this country the way it is now. You shut it down, you burned it down, you defrauded the public, you hoaxed them with Russia, you hoaxed them with Charlottesville, you continued to hoax them, you hoax them with masks, you hoax them with everything. You think people are just going to go, yes, sure, Jake Tapper, we'll go along with that? Look at this video. Look at this sad state of affairs. Look at this sadness. The guns are being drawn on the protesters. What do they suspect is going to happen when they get in there that they need to draw their guns on them? You think somebody's blowing themselves up in there or something? That's not who patriots are. They want in there so they can protest. And anybody worth their weight in anything in terms of intelligence gathering, analysis, situational awareness would understand that, would know that. Who's been causing the trouble out on the streets today? It's Antifa, again. I was there, I walked through it, Black Lives Matter Plaza, Antifa screaming at Trump supporters, trying to rile them up. Can we roll some more of this footage? And I want to try and get some of this audio as well, if we can, from out there. You know, I really want you to hear what's going on out there, the frustration, the visceral anger, the frustration that's there. It's palpable, it's tangible. The right, as I said, predominantly happy warriors. But hey, this is what they planned all along, right? Frustrate, anger, gaslight. I'm not taking any breaks. We're not going to break. Because this is live right now at the US Capitol. This is what they've reduced American cities to, American democracy to, the republic. Mike Pence wants to ignore the Constitution. The cowards in the GOP want to... I'm not going to sit here, by the way, and start talking about how the Democrats are bad. Yeah, of course. That's evil. That's evil manifest. That's evil to its core. We don't even need to talk about that. You know who's not supposed to be evil? You know who's supposed to be on our side? Mike Pence, Lindsey Graham, Marco Rubio. Where are these people? Listen. That sound should haunt you. These pictures should haunt you. Because this is what they've reduced the country to. Anybody, and I realize now this is just a stream of consciousness, but you talk to anybody worth their weight in understanding human nature, and you ask them, hey, can we lie to people for 5 years that there's a guy who's a racist white supremacist? Can we lie to them that he encouraged the KKK in Charlottesville? Can we lie to them that a foreign power was colluding with him and that he's a foreign agent? Can we secretly work with the Chinese Communist Party to take over the United States? Can our corporate side of our country be fully bought out by a foreign power? Can we do all of that and there be no repercussions? You ask any behavioral scientist in the world, they will laugh you out of their room. They will laugh you out of their office. Or their home office now, I guess. They will say, you cannot push people that much, that far, that fast. Politicians lie, I get it. The media lies, I get it. That's always been the case. You know what the first media was? It was pamphleteers, people who had a political agenda and who lied about their political opponents. They printed pamphlets and they disseminated them. I get it. The idea of media is built on coaxing people over to a certain worldview, and in coaxing they lie. We hate it, but we understand it. Okay? We go as far away from that as humanly possible right here in this studio and over at the National Pulse. That's not in our instinct. And by the way, you know what? You want to know why we don't lie to you? The biggest reason we don't lie to you, apart from it not being in our nature, that's a given. Because if I lied to you, if I said one lie to you, they would rip me off the air immediately. This show would be cancelled. All the networks would stop showing it. Every single web host would pull my website down. Every single company out there say, you lied about this little detail in a story, and therefore we have... It doesn't matter that CNN does it all day long as a business. It's CNN's business model. So I get that that's the media, and politicians lie too. I get it. Everybody is willing to build into their lives a little bit of BS. We all get a little bit of BS. We get it from our families, we get it from our colleagues, we get it from our friends, we get it from our bosses, we get it from our neighbors, we get it from our politicians, we get it from our media. Everybody gets a little bit of BS. It's built into the equation. And we forgive it. And we look past it. But it's a lot of BS. When it's choking you and blinding you and killing you, then it is your right, nay, your very purpose in life, to protest. Dr. Gina Loudon is the president of programming for Real America's Voice and joins us from the Capitol now, looking spiffy in that hat, Dr. Gina.
It's cold out here, Raheem. Raheem, I tell you what, I was watching the coverage, flipping channels around, because that's my job as program president, and I'll tell you something. The news media is lying, and I ran here as fast as I could. I don't know how far I came, and I called you and said, I want to come on your show, and I'm going to set the record straight, because I know one thing. I remember back in the days when the Tea Party was starting, and we would have Antifa show up at the Tea Parties dressed as Nazis, and then they would call the police and say there were Nazis at Tea Parties. I knew this was what was going on. This is precisely what was going on, Raheem. I'm standing here with people that were shot with rubber bullets, that were tear gassed, that were watching Antifa commit violent acts while they were literally walking in the Capitol building, believing they were invited in. They thought they were there on some sort of tour in Statuary Hall, like, oh, wow. And you can see it. If you watch the footage, Raheem, body language tells you everything. These people were peaceably walking inside, thinking that they were there to, I don't know, see what was going on in the hearings. And definitely not there with any sort of violent motive. So for the news media to report it otherwise is a complete lie, and it is up to us at Real America's Voice to set the record straight.
So hold on, hang on. Tell me that again, because we're getting all sorts of kind of conflicting breaking news that's going on right now. I'm reading on Twitter. I'm not confirming this. I have not independently confirmed this. But some people are saying that a woman who was trying to breach the doors inside the Capitol was shot in the neck by Capitol Police and was taken out on a stretcher. Have you heard that, Gina?
I did hear that. I, of course, didn't see that. I came after that. I did talk to a woman right here standing next to me who, and I can bring her on camera if you'd like,
please,
who tells me that she did see that she was shot with rubber bullets and she was tear gassed, and that she witnessed someone being shot in the stomach who was injured. Yes,
wow.
I bring her in. Come on over.
Yeah, bring her
and
in.
What's your
Gina,
name?
This is
Pam Dawson.
Yeah, Gina, I'm going to hand over to you, please.
Now, I didn't get shot with bullets, but some people that were by me got shot with bullets. I got
rubber bullets.
Yeah, rubber bullets. We got shot with tear gas. A couple of people got shot with rubber bullets.
And were they injured?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Meaning, like,
one guy was laying on the ground. They shot him in the chest, and I hope he's okay.
Wow. And
because we were going up the steps, they didn't want us up there, and the mayor did a police escort for Antifa, but us American taxpayers are being shot at with tear gas. So
that's amazing. Did you witness any Trump supporters committing any sort of violent acts or breaching?
No.
None.
No.
So did you witness any breaching whatsoever? Anyone breaking past barriers? Anyone breaking into the doors that we're hearing about reported on the news?
Well, I mean, we just went to the top of the stairs.
Okay, so you didn't personally witness any of the doors being quote unquote broken down as is being reported in the news.
No.
So all that you witnessed was you were up there peacefully protesting, nothing was broken down, and you were tear gassed and people you witnessed being shot at with rubber bullets.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. You're welcome. So there you have it, Raheem. I mean, this is the story we're hearing over and over again from people.
Gina, Dr. Gina Loudon's joining us from outside the Capitol building. This is an incredible development that we're able to break live on air here as well. Because, Dr. Gina, we spoke 5 minutes before the show, kind of trying to plan. Okay, there's crazy stuff happening right now. It's happening in real time. We're getting everything set up here. I want the audience to realize that, and in real time. And I only have my laptop here, and I'm going through live on the show, not taking any breaks. I've got the producers in my ear, and I've got you guys out there, Ben Bergquam and Dr. Gina Loudon, doing an amazing job out there outside the Capitol to bring the breaking news. But now we're beginning to learn, what you have just told us is we're beginning to learn that there have basically been provocations by left-wing agitators, and indeed it sounds like provocations by the police that have led to this escalation out of the U.S. Capitol.
I mean, we can't know what all the provocations were. Certainly there were, and I've been told this by numerous personal accounts from Trump supporters that I've spoken to, that there were Antifa among the Trump supporters. Many of them had small wooden flags. That's how you can recognize them. I actually posted some of their pictures, some of the suspected fake Trump supporters, if you will, that are dressed in all black. They have on backpacks, and they have these little wooden American flags. That's how I'm told the Antifa supporters got into the crowd of the Trump supporters and then went in and conducted their business, lured the Trump supporters in the building that way, and then the Antifa supporters committed this is what I'm told, that they committed some of the violent acts that then is being laid at the feet of the Trump supporters.
And I've got to explain to the audience, this is real-time information that's coming across our screens. It's real-time information that Dr. Gina Loudon's getting on the ground there, Ben Bergquam and the whole team. I mean, I'm looking on Gateway Pundit right now. I'm seeing that there's images being tweeted out from inside Nancy Pelosi's office, where people are tweeting out pictures from on her computer screen and on her emails right now. So it seems to me that there are different groups in different parts of the Capitol building right now, and that the police are struggling to control and even know where all of these people are. And I want to ask you this question because Mayor Bowser has put together this 6 p.m. curfew. She wants everybody off the streets by 6 p.m. We had Ben Bergquam on with us a minute ago, and he asked the people around him, hey, are you going to go home at 6 p.m.? It was a resounding no, Dr. Gina. Do you think people are going to voluntarily disperse on Mayor Bowser's orders?
Well, luckily, media is exempt from Mayor Bowser's orders, and so I definitely won't be going anywhere at 6 p.m., but I will be doing my show at 7 p.m. But, Raheem, I don't know what's going to happen with this. One point of interest, I think, that I thought was really a curious answer that I got, and a very a sort of apropos answer that I'm getting from a lot of folks when I asked them why they went into the Capitol, and they said, that's the people's building. I went into it because it's the people's building. I didn't know I wasn't allowed inside. And that is the sentiment, Raheem, of a lot of the people that went in. They didn't know they weren't allowed inside of the state capitol. Most of the people here have never been to the nation's capital before.
Right.
They came here to support the president on this particular day because they feel it is so historic to be here. And they didn't know they weren't allowed inside their nation's capital.
And actually on any given day, it's pretty easy to stroll into certain parts of the Capitol complex. It's been especially locked down today, and obviously tensions increasingly high. Dr. Gina, we're going to bounce in just a second. I've got to bring Ted Noel into the conversation as well. Any last thoughts before we let you go?
No, but the one thing I do want to say that I found also really shocking, Raheem, is as I was walking here and many people are filing away to go back to Freedom Plaza away from the Capitol, I couldn't believe this one thing. How happy people were, how many smiles there were after they have been betrayed on so many levels in their hearts. They were happy, they were singing, there was music playing, I saw people praying, but generally the mood was uplifted and people were smiling and having a good time. They are joyful warriors, these Trump supporters. Whether you're with them or whether you're against them, that's who they are. And I was very surprised to see that even on this, what would seem to be the darkest of days for them, they found joy. I just thought that was something I wanted to add.
Dr. Gina Loudon, President of Programming here at Real America's Voice. Thank you so much for bringing us that live report from the nation's capital.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. I want to reset here, okay? So at the beginning of the show, a lot was unknown. Hard to know what's going on, who's in there, who's provoking, who's drawing their guns on who, what's actually taking place. But here's what I did know. Here's what was obvious from the outset. The people who are storming, I'll use their words, storming, well, they were not interested in going in and blowing themselves up. They were interested in going in there and protesting, using their First Amendment right to protest. This is Howard Diamond, the network CEO, just casually walking into the shop. He's going to rip me off the air. Calm down, Raheem. They didn't intend. They weren't. It was not evident by any stretch of the imagination that this was a coup, as Jake Tapper said. That's why I'm wound up, and that's why I'll be wound up for the rest of the day. And if Mayor Bowser hits you with a curfew, go home, shut up, stay home. You may not protest. You may not gather in the nation's capital. And now we're beginning to hear, actually, there's all sorts of different groups engaged out there. Police were engaging with pro-Trump supporters. Antifa were provoking. Antifa may even be inside as well as the Trump supporters inside the Capitol. So it's all a big mess, basically, right? It's a mess. Did anybody expect today to go any differently? Have you been listening to our shows the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Yeah. It's a mess. And it's a mess because the nation's a mess. It's a mess because the moral compass of the country is askew. It's a mess because instead of the hands of the people, the power has been given to bureaucrats like Dr. Anthony Fauci and Chinese Communist Party agents are sleeping with US congressmen. Eric Swalwell, pretending he cares about his nation when all he cares about is doing the bang bang with the fang fang. It's funny, but it's true. It's sad. You should want to cry. And we would cry if we were not able to laugh at how ridiculous some of this stuff has become. I feel this sense of welling up with tears, but also I just want to burst out laughing at how stupid this situation is. How stupid do they think we are? How stupid would we have to be to buy the lie? Russia, Charlottesville, and now today, the election. Did they think? It reminds me of that scene from that movie, Equilibrium. You ever seen that? It's like a kind of a 1984 knockoff. Christian Bale. And the oppressive, tyrannical government, I think the guy's name is Father. He says to Bale's character, who is kind of this dissident, spoiler alert, by the way. He says to him, you led us all here. You led us to the resistance. And now we'll take you over, all without incident. And Bale's character thinks for a second. And he goes, no, not without incident. And that's happening here. You can't lead people down, gaslight them, and then go, you're going to take it without incident. Now, I think people have been hurt by the state today. By rubber bullets. I think we even think that somebody's been shot with an actual bullet. We're waiting on confirmation. In the neck. That's the state aggressing its people. And again, I get that you're not supposed to be in the Capitol building. I get that. But shooting Americans, shooting at Americans, they didn't do it when they were burning down private property across the country last year. But it happens in their swamp. Oh, that's a totally different issue. You're on the swamp territory now. You may not bring that my freedom stuff to this foreign capital, this foreign-owned capital. You know what I saw today? These guys are sitting here, by the way. I want to get the wide shot. These guys are sitting here the whole show, waiting to be brought in. I'm still in the opening monologue. We're 51 minutes into a non-break show, and I'm still on the opening monologue. I'll bring you guys in the last 60 seconds for your thoughts, reflections on the revolution on Capitol Hill. You know, I was walking down with Alistair here. We were walking down Pennsylvania. I was on Constitution. And we look up, and what's on the roof of 101 Constitution Avenue? Alistair, what was on the roof of 101 Constitution Avenue?
A huge Al Jazeera logo above the U.S. flag, I think.
Big Arabic letters on a big tent on top of 101 Constitution Avenue, overlooking the U.S. Capitol. Overlooking the U.S. Capitol. Over the top of the American flag. These big Arabic letters, Al Jazeera. Who's Al Jazeera?
Well, that's the Qatari government-funded broadcaster, and I was going to say it's not just that they're outside the Capitol. If Ossoff is to win, they'll be inside the Capitol. As we know, that Georgia State Senate candidate previously produced films with an Al Jazeera, not just linked, but I believe owned company. They did documentaries about how China's investment into Africa was actually really great, counter to the United States expanding their influence within the continent. So.
It's a foreign capital. It's not your capital anymore. Do you get that? Do you understand that? Do you understand how much of this city the Chinese Communist Party owns? Do you understand how much of this city the Qatari government owns, the Saudi government owns? And they're going to draw their guns. They're going to draw their guns on Americans. Do we have Ted Noel? Oh, I've got Ted Noel on the line. Do we have Ted? No Ted. Shame. I do apologize to Ted and to Steve Cortez, who are going to join us on the show today. But when news breaks. What are you going to do? Let's do a recap. Let's roll all the footage we can. Hundreds of thousands of people poured in to Washington, D.C. today. They lined up early in the morning, from 5 o'clock in the morning, some earlier, to go and see their president, to protest about what they called the steal, about what we understand has been an unlevel playing field during an election in the most consequential country on planet Earth. Think about that. I know most of this audience is American, and you kind of forget sometimes. You are the most consequential country on planet Earth. And they listened to their president. And they heard what he had to say. And they heard him hope that Mike Pence would do the right thing. and that other Republicans would do the right thing, and hell, maybe even some Democrats might do the right thing for once. But no, that just wasn't on the cards. It was not ordained that way. But hope has two beautiful daughters. Anger and courage. Anger at the way things are, and courage to change it. That's where hope comes from. So when Muriel Bowser, and I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but when Muriel Bowser says go home at 6 p.m. today, I just don't think that that's going to happen. And I do think it gets worse tonight. I really do. I really think it gets worse. And it gets worse because you know who really doesn't show up until it gets dark? The left. Cowards. But democracy dies in darkness. Remember, democracy dies in darkness wasn't, it's not a strapline that the Washington Post has because because they're interested in democracy. It's an instruction. It's a mission statement. And Antifa abides it. Democracy dies in darkness. And now, the first thing I'm going to do when we hand over the show to the next, and the breaking news that's going to come in immediately after me, I'm going to turn on my mainstream media, my corporate media apps, and see what they're saying about this. Because I guarantee you what they're doing right now is riling up the left to go and crack some heads tonight. That's what they do. That's what they do. And not once have you heard me over this hour long, not once have you heard me call for any violence or call for any heads to be cracked.